we mentioned a lot of other groups from the day in our conversation today. Were there any other groups or bands that you guys kind of looked at and really admired and kind of emulated? And how concerned were you with what others were doing when you were really locked in doing your thing and being successful?
Me personally, as I was more and more developing my songwriting, I became more and more locked into not so much the group, but the guy behind the group, who was doing the producing, who was doing the songwriting and the production. So I became a huge fan of Tom Bell. I can pretty much tell you when that started. That started when we first got with the Soul Children. At one point, we only had 3 records in the house. One of them was the Soul Children's record because we had to learn new material. But we had the Round 2 album by the Stylistics and the Spinners LP, both of which were produced by Tom Bell and largely written by Tom Bell. And I listened to those records over and over again, just constantly. And at one point, I probably could have reproduced any one of the songs on that record because I knew not just the words and lyrics, I knew the horn parts, the string parts, the guitar parts. I studied how you would use multiple guitars and they'd be doing different things and how the drummer worked with the bass. I, of course, was studying Maurice White and how he was doing his thing with Earth, Wind & Fire. When Nile Rodgers came out with his stuff, I latched on to the stuff that Nile Rodgers was doing. Now we already have our record deal, right? But he's like, what he's doing with that stuff, guitar, and I'm like, I like that. So I found myself more in tune to who was producing what, and then as an offshoot of that, who they were producing. That came later because I began to recognize where the sound was coming from. Trying to think of who else. Now Rodgers. Oh, and of course all the stuff that was coming out of Philadelphia International, and so not just Tom Bell, but
Huff and Gamble stuff.
Yeah, Gamble and Huff, and how they would write their songs and how they would put their stuff together, and then as a result, anyone who they produced. The Chicago song, I like the Shylights and stuff like that. So I was a big fan of them and their main singer and songwriter, and I forgot his name. Yeah, that was my focus.
Fair enough. So the next record that came out, Love Shine, I think definitely could hear progression. You guys were kind of stretching out a little more with some of the tracks, like in particular When the Feeling's Right. Mm-hmm. And still you had really catchy songs like So Easy and Shake and Dance With Me that were kind of in the fun mode, if you will. But I remember when that record came out, sitting with some friends in high school, and just, back then was when you would isolate yourself and, really like just completely dial in and listen to every part of the record and look at the cover and just get into it. And I was very immersed in that album. What do you remember about creating that one?
It's funny that those songs that you mentioned. All those are Michael's songs, right? And Michael was really progressing in new chord progressions, and he was doing. And Michael, like myself, was doing a lot of listening to the other people who were out there, because we were always aware of keeping track of and keeping up with the competition, right? And then trying to figure out how to turn what's currently going on into what's going to sound like Con Funk Shun. Adapting what we're hearing into what fits what is now becoming the Con Funk Shun groove, right? And so Michael started really getting into his funk chops on that album, you know. Feelings Right, and of course, some of Michael's influences were jazz guitarists, you know, what was Wes Montgomery, right? And so Michael was learning different chord progressions. For instance, the chord progression of When the Feeling's Right. I don't recall ever hearing that chord progression anywhere else other than on that record. And then combine that with discovering what is simple and works. You know, other than the key change, Shake and Dance With Me only has 4 chords, right? You know, it's based, and if you strip away the passing chords, it's based on a 1 to 4 chord progression. Da 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 da. And Michael admits that he based it basically on Sugar Sugar by the Archies. Right? And we were learning from other groups, and you know, and as we're watching, some simplicity works. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated to be a great song. Although, you know, Earth, Wind and Fire was certainly making it sound. I mean, they were certainly raising the bar for other bands. You know, like Jupiter. You know, not many bands were gonna type as a top record. Not many bands were. Oh no, let's go for something easy.
That whole record, all in all.
Oh man, yes. And so I, on the other hand, was experimenting with new stuff like when we did Make It Last.
I was gonna say that was like the best. Well, I would say the first classic ballad for Con Funk Shun, right?
Yep.
Definitely.
And for the first 16 bars is nothing but first 8 bars is nothing but an electric piano. No percussion, no nothing, just piano. Next 8 bars is just me and the piano. And I was, you know, borrowing textures from my idols or Earth, Wind and Fire. I think there was another song called Can't Say Goodbye. Is that
Can't Go Away?
Yeah. Oh, don't go away. That was Cedric wrote that, if I'm not mistaken, right?
A. Wilson.
Allie Wilson. Allie Wilson. I'm sorry. Yeah. That was one of the songs that Skip brought in. She was a co-writer on several Earth, Wind and Fire songs. So that was our first time.
Skip September.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Skip brought in the concept of outside material, right? The theory of, you know, it shouldn't matter where the hit song comes from. You know, don't get hung up with the fact that you have to write it for you to be successful. So, you know, we were quite open to it. We love that one. The song I mentioned, I'm sorry, that was on the Touch CD. But yeah, that was I wrote Love Shine, and that was me showing off what I'm learning from Earth, Wind and Fire. You know, that whole groove and wait a minute, and chords that I was learning from Skip. I spent a lot of time watching what he played on the piano. I'm like, oh, I've learned that chord, that F in the bass, and we're playing an E flat major on top of that with the G on top. Man, I like that. And that chord popped up, or a version of it popped up in my next 4 or 5 songs. You know,
you really liked it.
Yeah.
I see. Also, Sheila E. Was playing some percussion on that record.
Part of the Escovedo family has played on every one of our records. But yeah, Sheila E. her dad came in and played some stuff on I can't remember specifically which ones, but yeah, we were loved having that adding that feel. It was wonderful. As a matter of fact, Sheila went on tour with us for our 1979 tour of the one that we were headlining that I told you about. Yeah, she was our percussionist.
Wow.
Oh, she was amazing. I was, obviously before she hooked up with Prince, but that girl was like, man.
Yeah, I saw her. Must have been right around that time with George Duke. It was phenomenal. But the next record, Candy, to me, I mean, that's my all-time favorite Con Funk Shun record.
Thank you.
And it's just got really strong material every level. You know, at the funk, the ballads, the mid-tempo. It's just incredible. Chase Me, of course. Let Me Put Love on Your Mind. Maybe my all-time favorite Con Funk Shun ballad.
Thank you.
Just incredible. You know, did you guys feel like everything just coalesced on that record?
We were now getting to the habit of doing demos for every song, you know, as opposed to learning the song and then, you know, recording. We would actually go in the studio and do at least an 8-track complete demo of the song before. And that's how everyone would actually present their songs. They would bring their demo that they recorded, and we would sit down and we'd have meetings about, you know, which song to play. So, and at that point we had bought a studio in Vallejo, with the studio that we used to rehearse in. No, there used to be a record store that had purchased the building next to us. So we bought that building. We called, you know, it used to be a nightclub called the Melody Nightclub, and we bought it, and that became our rehearsal space. And we installed an 8-track studio in there. One of the things that, in my mind, that really helped was that we would get into the practice of doing a complete 8-track demo of the song. And some of our demos were like, you know, by the time we finished the recording, it sounded pretty much like the final recording. Danny, for instance, had the basic chord progression for Candy, right? Da 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 da. So I remember he and I started working on the basic idea of that. So, you know, once we fleshed out the rhythm section, I had written part of the song. Michael came in and he contributed. I think he came up with the right. Oh yeah, Michael came up with the words for the bridge. So the whole collaboration thing, especially now that we had a chance to record it and put it on and put it on tape, and plus applying all the stuff that we were learning from Skip, right? And so, to me, it was just becoming more like a the fine-tuned machine that the people that we respected were. We could hear it on their albums, and I agree that it was really starting to come together, and it was getting easier. For instance, "Let Me Put Love in Your Mind," that was kind of like my tribute to all the wonderful Isley Brothers stuff that we were hearing. And I remember writing it in terms of an OJ's chord progression that I had heard with some Isley Brothers stuff going on top of it, and it came out exactly as I first envisioned it. Man, it was exciting, and of course knowing that Skip was going to be coming in, you know, that once we got the songs written, that Skip was going to be coming in, that made everyone, you know, step up their game. You know, then, you know, we're not coming in and going to rely on Skip to make it good. We want to impress him when he came in. You know,
not everyone can bring, the true funk and also kill it on the ballads. That combination, it's definitely one of the things that puts Con Funk Shun in a certain, rare air that only a few groups really achieved. And
we've been fortunate, and again, I keep mentioning our mentors, the Ohio Players and Earth, Wind and Fire, and even the Commodores had that down to a science where they could do both, and we're like, yeah, well, we need to do both. So yeah, that was us again, just trying to keep up with our competition, or the people that we admired. We just that was our goal. We didn't want to be, we wanted to be like them, so we had to make.
Is there a certain sort of indefinable, thing that allows you to do a ballad such as "Let Me Put Love on Your Mind," where it still sort of has the same kind of soul and feel that you get with the funk, but it's a ballad? You know what I mean? It's still got that something that doesn't feel like real, like poppy and sugar coated. It's still got that oomph, even though it's a ballad.
For me, I'm gonna go back and tell you something. Leon Haywood, remember Leon Haywood?
Do something freaky to you?
Yeah, Leon told us, and I'm gonna quote him directly. Leon said, "Here's my theory: as long as someone else has a hit record, I'm gonna have a hit record," and that was his quote exactly. And if you may recall, "I'm gonna do something freaky to you" is almost an exact copy of Smiling Faces. Right? And so Leon was, and Alan Jones from the Barcades had a similar mindset, right? And so for us, and keeping that in mind, since we played all these other people's records, if someone was to tell me then or today, hey, I need this to have a specific kind of feel to it, kind of like such and such a song, it was easy, and still easy for me, to just go grab the essence of what makes this particular song work, and mix up some and just mold it to what I'm doing, right? And so where if I take, say, the basic but not exact chord progression from this song, and what the bass and drums is doing from this song, and what the lead microphone are doing on this song, and the lead guitar work stuff from this song,
You're a chef.
Right. And so it all becomes like almost like a recipe. And if the bass and drums from this song was a hit record, and the blah 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 was a hit record, well, by the time you've mixed it all up, it should work. Let Me Put Love on Your Mind was one of those songs for me, where having borrowed elements and textures, not the parts, but the textures, but that how the instruments are working together. And that was me just adding that craft. Okay, well, look, this works, because by the time you combine these two and these two with my mindset or Michael's mindset, well, now it's mine.
Yeah.
But it still has that the element that we were always looking to not get rid of. Even if the song is meant to be funky, we knew where to get our funk from. We got our funk roots, everything that we learned from all these other people that we've been listening to and playing their music. Okay, we just apply that to what we're doing here. Come on, like any studio musician, all the good ones, right? That you tell them you want a certain kind of feel. Okay, they just reel in all that experience that they've had. Okay, well, yeah, I know how to accomplish that. I can kind of borrow what I learned from this guy and blah blah. So it's
well, let me just say this about that, Felton.
Mhm.
You know, you got to know how to do that. It takes a lot of skill just to do that, and it takes a lot of skill and talent to be able to pull it off and create something new out of it. And you know, the Barquets very famously with Alan Jones did that. And although they have a lot of great tracks, you know, definitely to me, Con Funk Shun did it in a more consistently original sounding way than say like a Barquets did.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
You know, but it's funny that you mentioned the Isleys having some influence on that one, because I always thought, even though it's one of my favorites, that Chase Me was the one Con Funk Shun track that seemed to have the most Isley influence in just sort of that kind of funk.
Okay. Wow. Because I wrote the music for that and did the 8-track demo, and that was one of the first demos where, remember, that's the only demo that I played drums on. And I by the time I had presented to Con Funk Shun, it pretty much, except for the horn parts, because Michael wrote the horn parts. The track for Chase Me sounds exactly like the demo that I brought it in, and I was a huge fan of the Isley Brothers because, yeah, I think we used to play For the Love of You. I know we played. Hold on, what was the song? I try to play my
Fight the Power.
fight. Oh man, fight for, when we were top 40 band. That was one of our most most requested songs. You know, and so at some point over the course of our music, I felt like I always wanted to pay tribute to folks that we spend a lot of time playing their stuff. For example, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. Straight from the Heart. Obviously, Philadelphia influenced in that, and I did it that way. I want this, you know, that's my acknowledgement to where some of my mentors came from, and yeah, I was kind of looking for that raw feel. Thank you for recognizing that.
I got to ask you before we move away from Candy.
Yes, sir.
Fire When Ready. Was there ever a longer version somewhere? Because I love that opening, and I always wanted a longer version.
No, Fire When Ready happened as a result of us just jamming on stage. We went back and pulled up those old recordings that we used to do when we would always record ourselves as a top 40 band, and that was just something that we had all made up on stage. That group that we would just stand up on stage and jam to. We went back and got that, just turned it into an intro. We grabbed 20 of our friends from Vallejo, just come have a party in the studio, and that's literally what it looked like. There's 20 people standing around the microphone, just having a good time. No, it was written specifically just to be that little short piece.
Well, at least I know I didn't miss anything.
Right.
So now you're like at the pinnacle of popularity. It's like 78, 79. What was the Con Funk Shun show like at that? You know, we talked about some of the acts that you performed with.
Right.
If a person who wasn't able to go back then, what might they have seen or experienced going to a Con Funk Shun concert?
Man. Since 79, that was when we did our first headline tour. We had Sheila E. playing drums. We went back and we stole the guy who had done LTD's stage presentation. His name was Winston Davis. And we brought him in to kind of guide us through some of these stuff that he taught with LTD. And his thing wasn't necessarily about choreography, but it was about staging, right? So he taught us a lot about kind of like how directors direct plays and how to call attention to what's supposed to be happening on stage. So he took a very almost theatrical approach to not the music, but at any given point where the attention should be, you know. And for instance, how we used to line up with the five guys in a straight row. You took two guys and move them back, right? So that instead of having that what you used to call the picket fence, we were kind of shaped in a W, right? And then at some point we could left room. So we learned a lot from him. We also had a huge lit up Con Funk Shun sign behind us that was automated and controllable by our light guy in the front, so that at specific times it would light up specific times. I mean, it was huge. We had a stage set that I think we had gotten a hold of one of the Commodore's old sets and redressed it up. We had bombs, explosions, smoke. It was full blown production. We were on stage for like 90 minutes, just sweating it out. It was.
You had some flamboyant costumes too.
Yes, we did. A guy named Bill Whitten, who did costumes for Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Commodores. We went and got him, had him design some costumes for us too, so we could be where we needed to be. And then it was, I miss it, man. It was a lot of fun, and it felt like we were doing it how it's supposed to be done. Again, I never lost that awe for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and them, but at this point, I felt okay. Well, we're there. We're kind of in the same ballpark, And the fact that we were headlining, it was just it felt like our musical world and our lives just took another step upwards. Yeah, it was amazing.
What was one or two of the most unforgettable shows that Con Funk Shun did, would you say?
I would say Atlanta, which is where there is a video for Chase Me. We did the video for Don Kirshner's rock concert. We did the video because we could not appear there in person, and he allowed us to send in the video instead. But we filmed the video, part of the video, the night before we did the concert in Atlanta. So we were wearing the same outfits that we were wearing the following night. I remember that one specifically, just because the energy again for the whole thing. Oh, and remember, I used to stand on the stage and watch the guys who came on after us. I also made a point of standing on stage, and watching everyone who was coming on before us. So every night I would sit there and watch the Gap Band and McFadden and Whitehead, and those guys were like, I loved watching them, just their energy and how they interacted with each other and the audience. And Anita Ward at that time had the #1 record in the country as
Ring My Bell.
Ring My Bell. That's me being a student, learning from everyone, right? I remember remember that old poem that was called the Desiderata? Remember that? One of the lines of that poem said, always remember that there are always be greater and lesser persons than yourself, right? There's something to be learned from everyone, right?
You got to always maintain some humility.
Yeah. And so I remember Atlanta. And anytime we went overseas, Tokyo specifically, and I love playing Tokyo. There's been little bits and pieces that reminded me of what made concerts stand out. For example, I do remember playing in Phoenix, Arizona. And here's why I remember that one. we were doing the song "Baby I'm Hooked," and I would jump down from the stage in between the barrier and the audience, right? And I would walk along the barrier, singing to ladies, right? As I go along, and then make my way back up on the stage. And some guy thought it would be a fun idea to grab my wrist and keep me from walking. And so I shook his hand, and he wouldn't let me go. He had grabbed hold of my wrist, big, strong, burly guy, and I could not move. I'm trying to pull it, but I didn't want to stop singing, right? So I just kept singing. And as soon as I got a break, I knew I had, a couple seconds. I took my microphone and went, bam, and hit his knuckles with my microphone. Okay, so he let go now. All right, so that's where I remember Phoenix. I remember Albuquerque, New Mexico, because the promoter decided to be cheap and put the lighting guy not out in front of the audience, but he put the lighting guy on the side of the stage over here, right? And we weren't carrying our own lighting guy, so we were dependent on, and this guy didn't really know what he was doing, right? Because at the end of every song, he would make the stage completely dark. And Michael was standing there talking to the audience, and he would keep the stage dark, and he would keep it dark until the next song. But at this particular point, Michael was talking, and I'm saying, spotlight, dark. Sir, spotlight. Michael's talking, and this is totally dark. So now I start to walk toward him, right? The stage is dark, and I forgot that there's a monitor in between me and him. It didn't dawn on me, but I'm walking in the dark toward him because I'm going to go talk to him, and I trip over the monitor. Scraped up my leg, and I'm now sprawled out on the floor. So guess when he turns on the light?
Right there.
Turns on the spotlight. Guess where it's pointed? At me. Okay. I do remember playing in Tokyo. One time playing in Tokyo. I mean, and it's small stuff like this. We were setting up. We were playing at Club Mugen. Lewis was doing something back on the drums, and we heard this loud noise. And Lewis had fallen off the stage. He was back. He was like 10 feet up in the air. Last time I saw him, 10 feet out, and look back. Lewis had fallen off the drum kit back in between the riser and the curtain back in the back. So I always remember that. I remember Jackson, Mississippi, because we were playing. Hold on.
As we're talking about mishaps.
I know, right? We're playing Jackson, Mississippi, and we're about to play this song. We're opening up for the Commodores. Not opening, but Taste of Honey is the opening act. Taste of Honey, Con Funk Shun, Commodore. And of course, all of us had crushes on the girls in Taste of Honey, wanting to impress them. And this is like the second night of the tour, and we're going to do Make It Last, right? And so we had this big choreography thing because Mike put down the guitar, Cedric put down the bass, and we had 5-band choreography thing going on for the first 8 bars because nothing but piano. But in the middle of now there's 10,000 people out in the audience. And I'm doing this, and I said, wait, he's playing in the wrong key. Damn. Okay, so I break out. Now I'm center stage, so I break out of my car and I walk over to Danny, and his keyboard is facing the band. It's not facing the audience. His keyboard is facing the band. So now I'm standing with my side to the audience. All right, Danny, you're playing in the wrong key. Huh? Dude, you're playing in the wrong key. Oh. And he stops playing. It's dead silence. There's 10,000 people out here. There's silence, right? And then he starts playing again. And again, my back is to everybody else. And he starts playing again. Okay, it's the right key. Cool. So I'm remembering the choreography. So I'm figuring that everyone else had started all over again. So I timed right. I did this beautiful move and I spun around And by the time I finished my spin, everyone else had left the stage. It's just me and 10,000 people. I didn't wait for the whole intro. I just started singing. We made it through. But yeah, it's stuff like that that makes me remember specific concepts, the funny stuff.
Why did they leave the stage? Was it a prank or what was going on?
No, because they weren't sure what to do. And I remember Michael saying that, I had to walk past Michael. Gotta show you. I had to walk past Michael going this way. And when he saw me go this way, his next move is and everyone else just followed him off the stage. You're like, oh shoot, something messed up. Felton's got this handle. Let's go walk off stage until it's time to play the music. So
wow, that's like the beginning of your solo career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But that was at this point the other than the little mishaps and stuff, Watt Stacks is still the biggest. That was the big one. So,
that's hard to top.
Yeah.
That's historic, that one.
Yeah.
Felton, I'm going to just combine the next two records to include them. Spirit of Love and Touch in 80 and, well, I guess they both came out in 80. You came out with two records in 1 year. That's unbelievable. Those were the days, right?
Yeah.
But Spirit of Love had Got to Be Enough, which was another great hit, up-tempo. I mean, the whole record was great, but I mean, some of my favorites were Happy Face and Honey Wild and just lots of great stuff. I noticed Patrice Rushen was on this one too. So, and then Touch, which in a way was sort of like a sequel because it was closely timed with this record, and the sound to me was very consistent across those two records.
Oh.
But Touch had two tight, fantastic songs. Ladies Wild, Touch, the title track was great. But unless I'm mistaken, it looks like Skip Scarborough was no longer around for Touch. So,
okay, we did Touch first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We did Touch first, and
okay.
Skip initially had issue with the song Touch. The song had, I'm going to say, mildly suggestive lyrics, and Skip was a very spiritual kind of guy. And he just, and the group felt really strongly about the song, right? And so we were like, we can make this happen. So we just went in the studio and just, ourselves, made it happen. We were happy with it, He came in later and then, said, okay, whatever, and I'll work with you on some of it. But we still had contacts with the people who did the horn and string arrangements. Benjamin Wright, I believe, did some arrangements for us. A guy named David Crawford did some arrangements for us. But I had run into this guy named Gary Jackson. And one of my close friends from the Commoners tour, who was then living with me, his name was also Gary Jackson. So differentiate between the two, they were Fat Gary and Skinny Gary. Fat Gary is the guy playing bass on Touch and the co-writer. He's also the guy playing bass on Ladies Wild and the co-writer. He's also the bass player on Two Type. Gary was one of them intimidating kind of bass players, right? And we went ahead and used Gary because Gary had a whole slap bass thing and precision that Cedric, just to put it bluntly, didn't have yet. I'm gonna add the word yet. So we just threw Gary on there, and Gary's used the word magic. Gary had this magic thing going on, and especially since he wrote the bass lines for Touch and Ladies Wild, that was that was all him, and then the original demos were him playing the bass and me playing guitar, and so those two songs are very, so talking about Ladies Wild and Touch, are very guitar orientated.
Yeah, Touch is probably one of the harder sounding songs that you guys have done.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I literally owe that all to his bass playing, because the original demo was just a drum machine going choo, tss, choo, tss, tss, and he just played bass on top of that, and man, just that alone was like, damn, you know. And I just added some guitar, very simple, guitar parts, and that the bass really spoke for the entire song.
The synth too was really good.
Yeah. And it was fun. Just once we walked in and recorded in the studio, it just came. It was fun. I think we knocked out the entire song in 4 or 5 hours. I mean, yeah, it was, everything just seemed to. Again, we were still in the process where we would always cut the demo first, right? So we had that. What the carpenters say, measure twice, cut once. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we already measured it twice, so we already had a really good idea of what we were going to do once we got in the studio, and it just literally fell together, and we were able to take all the stuff that we had picked up from Skip and hire the horn and string arrangers that we used down in LA, and. I think we did a respectable job,
That record, Felton, did have more strings than you guys used before, right?
Yeah. And we had a lot more input from the other guys in the band than we had from the previous 3 records. I think Michael and I wrote all of 95% of the Touch of the Secrets LP. Cedric contributed on Indian Summer Love, right? And so everyone's started the process of starting to contribute. Now, and I was so glad to get Skip back for Spirit of Love. It was really nice having him back.
Why was he out of pocket for Touch?
Oh, because he had an issue with the song Touch.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That he just he was like, no, I can't. If that's the kind of songs you guys are doing, I can't be involved in that. Okay. Well, we got this.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, Felton. I thought you were saying initially that Michael had trouble with it.
Oh no. Mike was all in. No, everyone,
Okay, so Skip. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep. No, Skip was the one who had issues with Touch, and
that Too Tight in particular, like, really was a lot of interesting parts to it.
Too Tight is one of the songs that Michael wrote. Again, I'll go back and say where Cheryl Lynn had a song out called
Got to Be Real.
Right. So Too Tight was one of those songs where, you know what, let me borrow the essence or some of the elements. And this is Michael, this is how we thought. Let me borrow some of the essence of how that song is. And then once he brought in Gary to play the bass, man, the song just, with just Michael playing guitar and Gary playing the bass, it was just, damn, and sometimes, with writers, if you got a killer track, sometimes the lyrics just, come easy, and that's what we wound up with. So, Michael, those right elements coming together, the right musician playing the right part, the drums working in. And then once we put on the strings and horns, we flew down to LA, and I was there to watch the string and horn section, and we used the Earth, Wind, and Fire horn section. Now, talk about a thrill, man! I'm like a kid in the candy store right now, watching all this happen. For both Touch and the stuff we did on the Touch album and for the Got to Be Enough specifically. On Touch, the guy who did this, the horn and string arrangement, had only written it for the 3-minute single version, but we sent him all six minutes of the recording, right? And so here we are. We got all these LA cats in over here. You know, this is costing us $2,500 to have all these LA cats in the room. We're like, no, we needed the arrangement for all that additional 2 minutes at the end. And he's, man, scratched his head for a minute. He went over to the piano and wrote this down and just scratched this out, had out some new parts, man. He came up with some stuff on the spot for them to record, and we went ahead and recorded the rest of the string section and stuff for the rest of the song. It was like, man, I was so impressed with that. But the fact about having what song was that? It might have been Got to Be Enough. We recorded the horns down in LA again using the Earth, Wind & Fire horn section, and then they gave me all the horn. But so Con Funk is not our horn section. That is not us on the record. And when they handed me the sheets and the charts for that, I was like, man, I can't play this. And when the string players were playing, it might have been Got to Be Enough. Was up in San Francisco, and I was watching that, and there was the concert master, the lead violinist player, and they're getting warmed up, and he's running over their parts, and there was a girl behind him looking at her sheet, and it was like, and I looked at it, man. This looked like a bunch of ants on their way to a picnic, just notes, you know. And I was sitting there watching her. She was looking at her sheet music, going, "I can't play this." And he runs over it, and they go over one time, and he says something to the effect, "Okay, so well, we're going to need to tighten up the section, blah blah blah, because I'm hearing someone back over here," and he's using his bow to point back over his shoulder, and he's pointing right at her. Someone back here is having some issues with that, so let's go with that again. And everyone's looking at her, and now he can't see her, but she's sitting in my hand going, exciting stuff. We brought in Patrice, and you have the liner notes in front of you. I think her name was Karen something, to sing backgrounds on By Your Side. And I'm sorry, and if I ever see her again, I'm gonna apologize to her.
The only people listed here are Lynn Davis.
It's Lynn. Lynn used to also sing backgrounds for George Duke. If I'm not mistaken, that's her singing "I Want You for Myself" on the George Duke song. But this was specifically song for the song "By Your Side." On "By Your Side," I played all the instruments on that track, and initially I had done 6 tracks of background vocals, and the decision was, no, Felton, it sounds too much like you, so we need to do something else. And when we tried adding some of the other guys' voices to the background parts, it actually didn't match. It didn't work. So that's why we got the idea to go get Patrice Russian and Lynn to come sing backgrounds and take off solos in my background. It worked beautiful. That was Skip's idea, and Skip was, his usual genius self, knew what to do.
So by this point, you guys had strung together so many hit albums and songs. I mean, incredible role that you took into the 80s. Did you guys start to feel sort of invincible at that point?
Every album was a challenge. No, I personally don't remember because it was starting to feel like it was getting harder, as a matter of fact, because now we had all this stuff behind us, and we had to just keep the train rolling. We couldn't just say, okay, well, yeah, we're cool. The audience will now buy anything. No, we got to keep improving. We have to keep at bare minimum, keep where we are and not go backwards. So we would have this whole process of, folks would do demos whenever and however they could. At that point, I'd bought my own equipment and I was doing demos at home, and some of the guys would come over to my house and I'd work on their stuff with them, stuff with them. But at the beginning of every album, starting after Spirit of Love, it was all about, hold on, let me go back. Spirit of Love. We had a song called Curtain Call, right? Curtain Call happened the same way that Secrets did for the Secrets LP. Skip was in there just playing this groove. All right, come on, Skip. We like it. We cut the groove. Exact same thing happened. We cut the groove, cut the track. I took this home, wrote the lyrics, came back for it, cut the lyrics, and took it out of LA to do the horn string arrangements and call it a day. But we would have to sift through 30, 40 songs so that we could pick the best songs for the album.
Did that ever get contentious?
Well, yeah.
Got to fight for yours, right?
I do remember specifically we had one group meeting where we're 7 guys. We operated as a democracy. Some guy would bring up an idea for a rule that we should live by, and then we would vote on it, and then it becomes law, right? So one guy said, well, here's the idea, that no matter who wrote a song, that the song should be split equally 7 ways. And I'm going, no, that doesn't work for me. And Michael, at this point, Michael and I being having written 80, 90% of the songs, Michael, no, it's not gonna work for me. Not gonna work for me either. And some of the guys were saying, well, the Barcades do it, and I was able to say, well, look, wait a minute, I've been in the studio with the Barcades. They sit down and write all this stuff together. If I've sat at my house, and by the time I've brought you an entire song that I've sat here and laid all the parts for, it's kind of not fair to me to have to split this 7 ways. Oh, no, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the meeting, what I do remember saying was, you know what, tell you what, gentlemen, I'm changing my vote. I think it's a great idea. And of course, Michael's looking at me, what the hell, man, are you crazy? I said, no, I think it's actually a good idea. Let me decline this call. So forgive me. I said, it's a great idea. But I do need to let you guys know, I will no longer be writing songs for Con Funk Shun. I'm going to start taking my stuff and give it to other people. But I'll be more than glad to sit back and collect my 1/7 of whatever y'all do. That law did not get passed. They're like, man, that's messed up. And if I'm not mistaken, the next album was the Con Funk Shun 7 album, right? And this is where this conversation took place, and where it started to get contentious. And then came the suggestion for the rule that everyone in the group should have a song on the album. Now, on the surface, that sounds, I'm going to say, fair, right? But this is the music business, and we're not here to be fair. We're here to be successful. We're here to be the best that we can be. And of course, I voted against that. I mean, because, and I was saying, well, no, because if you're telling me that no matter what, if I only bring you one song, no matter how good or bad it is, you have to take it. Well, now the quality of our record is going down. Mm-hmm. We've gotten this far because we've had to compete with each other for the best songs, and as a result, we end up with good stuff. I mean, let's not go backwards so that we can be fair You know, I'd have been willing to give up. You know, if Skip had written 5 hit songs, I'd have been willing to find, hey, these are hits. We need to be doing this. And, you know, it doesn't matter to me who wrote it, because if the album is full of hit songs, more people are going to buy the record. More people, you know, that means we get to go out on tour more. We get to raise our price. Man, dude, it works out. Trust me, it'll be fine. You know? The entire 70s. Okay, well, okay, yeah, Felton, you're right. You got a good point. So when we did the final vote, it wound up that everyone had a song on the album. That's interesting. I slept on it and came back the next day. I said, gentlemen, if we did this right, then this should work. Let's take a list of every song that made it and compare it to every song that got turned down. Let's start with song number 1 and compare song number 1 with every song that got turned down. If it still stands on its own against all the other 20 songs that got turned down, then we made the right choice. Okay, fine. Let's move on to number 2. By the time I got down to song number 3, the guy who wrote the song said, okay, you got it, you know. And then he busted the other 4. The other 5 members had gone back and had a separate meeting and decided to alter their votes to make sure that everybody had a song out. Right. So then, okay, well, now that we're busted, let's have a real vote. So I mean, there were some really good songs that based on the initial vote that weren't going to go on the album, based on who wrote it. For instance, Straight from the Heart ended up on this side. We're not going to record it because at that point it was more important to be fair. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It almost wound up being a disaster, but you know, I think Straight from the Heart wind up going back on. If You're in Need of Love wound up going back on. There was one more, I can't remember which one. But yeah, it was. Michael and I were making a lot of money from publishing and all the songwriting, you know. And I understand, you know. On the other hand, it was allowing Con Funk Shun to get to where we were. You know, it was because we had such strong material that we were able to sell gold records and platinum records and go out and charge as much money as we did and go out on tour. You know, I think had we did it some other way, we never would have gotten to that position.
Well, as you say, Straight from the Heart was the big hit on that record, and another classic ballad in the Con Funk Shun canon.